thevoicebefore-the-void.net about ancient aliens. Huh. Wow. Right, so Ancient Aliens and the Death of Critical Thinking. It's my favorite TV show. Oh, I mean, there's so much. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I just love it. I love it. It's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the racism and these guys, the archaeology. Okay, so anyway, but the show, I really, really enjoy the show. Like, I really, genuinely enjoy watching the show. Like, like, it's just so, it creates this weird, wild kind of, like, joy. I don't know. It's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, and because, right, like, it's to revel in their craziness. You can tell I'm smart because I don't have to give a shit about my hair like Einstein. But yeah, the answer to everything, is just aliens. Could it be like aliens? And that's even the it's a really good encapsulation of the show's premise, or of all these ancient alien theorists. I mean, it's so funny, like the narrator in the show, like, calls them ancient alien theorists, as if that's a thing, like what? But they get that title, and so it seems to lend some credibility, but really no, because they're just nuts. I mean, and nuts in that they just deny critical thinking, and everything is always explainable with aliens. It doesn't matter what you throw at them. It's like, oh yeah, and what's interesting, like, in the show, why I like it so much, particularly the earlier seasons, when it seemed like it's changed because they quickly run out of material, because it's a finite number of, archaeological sites in the world that, are really intriguing, and that have, some really, confounding mysteries. And that's part of, like, why I really initially liked it so much, is because, there's real archaeological sites that they showcase, and they do delve into the actual mysteries that are involved with some of these, places and extinct cultures. And that is terribly fascinating. I mean, it really is our human mystery, that there's these things that today we just cannot understand. And, I've always been aware of this stuff, and there's a lot of really weird things. Anything they can latch onto, like, that is unknown, anything that's mysterious, they hold up as an example of, or as evidence that extraterrestrial technology was involved. And certainly that's an encapsulation of the show, is from these macros, internet memes, like aliens, like Giorgio Tsoukalos, aliens is the answer to everything, but yeah, like, the question, like, we don't know what it is, therefore aliens. And that's the whole argument. Exactly. Yeah. And it's the old, like, it's the God of the gaps, like, anytime there's mystery, ambiguity, anytime we can't be certain, that's where you can throw in your paranormal, your spiritual, your, God. He just slides right in there because you can't deny him, because you don't have any, evidence otherwise. And so that's what Ancient Aliens just lives on, is the mysteries of archaeology, wow, look, and what's interesting too, then they always set it up as mainstream archaeologists and mainstream science. Like, they're the villains in their story. Like, they're always, like, well, these guys, yeah. And part of it is, you can understand, just socially, like, these guys have no respect, from anyone who is respectable. Like, but the thing is, they get as much respect as they deserve. Like, when you don't follow any kind of, rigorous, thinking, when you can't present an argument and have evidence that, can be persuasive to an unbiased opinion, you don't. It's not respectable. But so they just present these endless, like, wild theories that, fail anytime you would apply Occam's razor, which is, not a rule of logic, but it's, a rule of thumb. Like, it's just easy. Like, if you have to make assumptions about things that you can't have any evidence for, it's less likely that that's a possible solution. The simpler solution is, the more likely it probably is. And when you have to presuppose, like, alien species visiting Earth, and the only evidence left behind is, like, some vague, like, easy to interpret in many different ways, even though they have a very clear, cultural interpretation in their own culture. Like, if that's the only evidence left behind, it's not convincing. If you want, that's why it doesn't deserve the respect. Like, but they're constantly hitting, like, mainstream archaeologists, they deny, like, whatever gonna be, or even that there's conspiracy, that they're, like, hiding it. And, my one friend, Brent, Whitfield, who's, we went on a archaeological survey. It was a survey course, of the Mayan ruins in the Yucatan, in Mexico. So not to Guatemala, which is is the other half of, like, the Mayan heartland, which has many important sites, but in the Yucatan. And so we visited over 20 like these sites, all the major ones, but many, like, that were at that time, which is 20 years ago. Stuff that's since been more and more uncovered, and I think they've even started to develop touristically. But I mean, we went got into pickups and went through the jungle for hours to get to these places that had just been uncovered from the jungle, and these Mexican archaeologists were just beginning initial excavations on and finding really weird, interesting stuff. Essentially, that's one thing that I learned, is the whole Mayan peninsula, the whole Yucatan Peninsula, the entire peninsula is essentially an archaeological site. At the height of the Mayan civilization, which is, I think, 800 Anno Domini, the Yucatan was the most densely populated area on the planet. The Yellow River Delta is frequently in history the most heavily populated, densely populated area. But no, the Mayan civilization surpassed it. It was just like, that's what it's basically understood to be, that every square meter of the Yucatan is archaeological, was worked by the Mayans at the height, because there was just so many people there. Everything was developed. Everything was utilized. Every square meter. Like, it's just, so what looks like jungle is jungle covering Mayan habitations. And not all of them were cities, but all of them were where people were living. And in fact, there are many cities there, and there's still many cities that are under jungle. Like, a lot of hills are not, in fact, hills. They're buildings underneath the things. I mean, it's really, really amazing. So anyway, we did this, and Brent, like, and it was a really great course with this American archaeologist in Minnesota who had done all of his work in the Yucatan with all these Mayan archaeologists. He was a Mayan archaeologist, and really, really well liked professor, awesome guy. Anyway, like, Brent, like, took to this like, so much that he made that his career. Like, so he finished anthropology, and he went to Vanderbilt and studied under Arthur Demarest. And Arthur Demarest was one of the most important or influential Mayan archaeologists in the world. And so he was teaching at Vanderbilt, and that's where Brent went then to study under him and got his PhD in Mayan archaeology. And that's what he does. He lived in Guatemala for many years, doing work on Mayan cave sites from the Mayan ancient civilization. And I mean, well, they had centuries and centuries of habitation and use, before and after, like, the real rise. And of course, the Mayan civilization is not extinct. I mean, Mayans still live in the Mayan heartland. their numbers, I mean, there's so many other people, living there since the Spanish colonization, but the Mayans are still there. But yeah, the real, the height of the urban civilization, was a few hundred years before the Spanish arrived. And, yeah, I went and visited him in Guatemala and spent time on there and went to his sites and stuff. I mean, he really, really, I mean, that's his life, and so, but I remember way back when we were in Yucatan, we went to Chichen Itza, which is the heavily developed site, for tourism. Mexico has massive tourism for its archaeological sites. And Chichen Itza is the one with the most spectacular, best, preserved, or reclaimed, pyramid. It's the picture postcard one, it's all the stuff. It's the Mayan, pyramid. Although I guess Tikal in Guatemala would be the other, one that would be almost as iconic. And, so, I mean, yeah, I don't know, 1 million tourists more that go through every year. I mean, it's so massive. And so we went there, and that was a different experience than all the other sites we were going to, which were much less visited and in some cases obscure, not even, known yet. But anyway, Chichen Itza was so interesting because, yeah, I mean, there's just thousands of people there every day and like from all over the world, just, walking around and it's a big city, and it's a industry, and so there's all these tourists and all this tourist money, and then there's tour guides, and they're licensed by the Mexican government, and it's all a regulated industry, but and a source of major source of income, but I mean, yeah, there's got to be hundreds of tour guides, and we were there, and or the archaeologist from Minnesota there, and he was saying, he'd actually done his, I think, master's thesis at Chichen Itza, or was it Palenque? It was one of the major cities. But yeah, that's where he'd done all of his master's work. And anyway, he said that when he was doing that, like years before, he said that, he just heard a tour guide, like, one day going by and pointed at, one of the buildings and said, "Oh, and under that building they found a spaceship." and he said that wasn't the most shocking part. The shocking part was, just these European tourists are just like, "Oh yeah, like, sure." Like, not even, of course they did. Like, but well, but no, that's what I mean. This is decades ago when that happened, where he relates the story of like tour guides just saying that. And yeah, you'll find that throughout. And it's accepted because people do expect it. And that's, I don't know, it's all, so it exists in the culture. And what's interesting too is I've read some stuff. I think a guy wrote a whole book, academic work on, this ancient alien theory, because it's become so influential. Like, in fact, in Ancient Aliens, the series, their beginning, their opening, sequence, like the narrator says, I don't know if they still do it, but they did it for many seasons. You say, millions and millions of people around the world believe that the Earth was visited by extraterrestrials in ancient times. And it's like, because the thing is, like, that is a fact. Like, yes, millions of people around the world do believe that. That doesn't make it true or relevant to the realities of the rest of us, but that is a fact. Like, people believe this. And it's many, many millions of people. And that's kind of the unfortunate part of it too, which why, I mean, it's so interesting as well, like, because it feeds the, people believing this, and it feeds this like breakdown of scientism, and, people making reality out of their beliefs and disregarding like facts, or, just having no faith in authority or, science or intellectual rigor or, just saying, no, that's not me. And it's, it's kind of yeah, like you can kind of see a dark ages descending, if that were to continue, but it's definitely promoted by, this intellectual pablum of ancient aliens. So it's fascinating in so many ways. But anyway, right. So that's a fact. Millions of people do believe this. And that's the fun part about the show too. Like I say, I love it. And I was to say about Brent, my friend, saying I was talking about him some years ago, saying, "Oh, I love ancient aliens," and he was just like, "Oh, I hate it." And I was like, "Have you watched it?" He's like, "No, I haven't watched a thing of it." Well, I was like, "No, you should watch it. It's so much fun." And he's like, "No, it's so stupid." And part of it too is because they always, he is the villain. Like according to all these guys, he is, the one who's, well, I think the main thing is they just disrespect, ancient alien theorists, as if that were a thing. But again, they don't deserve the respect, but I don't think they quite realize that. Because I don't think they have the education in what, peer review is, like in presenting an argument and like in having it, stand up to, challenge, like, so that, right. I don't think they think like that, or at least some of them anyway. But what's interesting too is I don't think any of them are, what's the word? Like scammers. Like it doesn't, and that's what kind of is appealing about it too. Right. It seems like they're very sincere in thinking that their theories are real. Even if they can't provide evidence or misunderstand what evidence actually is. It seems like they're sincere. That they really moves, which is attractive and fun and, a little bit frightening. But they don't seem at all, malevolent, they just seem like, oh, this is the thing. And it's got this really weird, attractive power to it. And so, but anyway, yeah, with Brent, like, he's like, oh, yeah. And then he says this thing, if, these ancient alien idiots, like, if I found a spaceship in the ground, I would publish the shit out of that. And because the same thing with these, the show and the whole culture around it, they do feed this conspiracy idea that like the government, particularly the world government, governments or just one singular government, like that they have knowledge that they refuse to let, us, decent, schlubs have access to, that they're hiding it from us because they don't trust us, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big thing just in UFOs, like contemporary UFO culture. But even with these guys going ancient alien things, saying, oh no, like even that's still covered up. And that, that even the professional scientists are involved in that conspiracy as well. They if they're not outright like, denying it, then they're hiding it. They do know what's going on, but it's like, oh no, like, it's like, oh God. There's just another thing on television, some other UFO, thing, which, one of these, there's a bunch of science channels now where they show these nonfiction, things, but, this one had some more, because that's how it used to be, and that's how you had to be respectable. Like, decades ago, if you're going to show like a documentary on some weird paranormal or, fringe stuff, like you had to present it with some kind of, skepticism, right? I mean, you had to like show that like you're not just taking the stuff for what they're saying it to be, you're presenting, an actual, opposing viewpoint, which in almost every case is a professional, scientist. And, there's claims of bias, which you can level in both directions and also need to be directed at professional scientists. I mean, because bias exists there and it can be very insidious. But the thing with science, and that's, as philosophers of science and other writers of science will describe, like in the end, like what does win out is stuff that is, persuasive, and it's persuasive when it's, reproducible, and if it's falsifiable. And that's the thing with the, like ancient like an ancient alien theory or these guys is anything you throw at them, they can explain. But that's what's so fun about the show. I think that's a big thing I like about the show is the production of it. Like, just because this narrator's so great. I'd love to hear this narrator. Like, I don't know how they found this guy, because I think he makes the show. I really do. I mean, there's many elements that are so attractive, but I think this guy's key to it. His tone just hits it, it's like, and the way it's written too, particularly in the earlier seasons, like when they were, because, like I said, they ran out of stuff pretty quickly. I think it was by the fourth season, they already had like an episode like Ancient Aliens and Bigfoot. And it's like, what the hell what is Bigfoot? and that's the thing, like these guys are involved in all of the other weird, stuff. And it quickly is, they had, Ancient Aliens and the Nazis. Well, that's not ancient, right? But there's so much of UFO culture that has to do with, these Nazi theories from World War II, and this time travel stuff from the 20th century and these other, cowboys, like old Western, U.S. Civil War. I mean, just all this stuff. Yeah, but it's not. It's just, it's tied into, this modern, new age UFO, conspiracy theory, I'd say audience, but it's actually, consumers, like there's just people who pay for this stuff, and they have conventions, and they're just constantly publishing these books, and they sell, and these television shows. I mean, but like I said, the thing with Ancient Aliens, it's a phenomenon. Like the popularity of the show is undeniable. Like it just dwarfed anything else that's ever been shown on the History Channel, which is so depressing, but it's also, it's fun to watch. It really is fun to watch. And so, right, the narrator, and so the way it was written it'd be, could it be that, was actually by aliens? And it's like, yes, it could be. Like, that is true. It could be. It's fucking not, because that's insane, but it could be. Like, yes. And so that was the real fun thing about the creation of the show, is like, you could watch it and like, yeah, you can't just outright say, no, this is utter bullshit, because, it was all done intelligently enough. It was like, yes, millions of people do believe this. That's true. And like, could it be? Like, it could be. And the other thing about the early episodes, and later episodes too, but like, cause I can just watch them over and over. They're so much fun. But that was the other thing I would, told Brent years ago too, is like, I was like, no, you gotta watch it. Like, one thing is, they have money. Like, they have a production budget. And that's so depressing again, because to do just a show on archaeology, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's gonna watch it. It's driven by money, and so this, you watch an episode of Ancient Aliens, and, they'd be at, they'll be at Karnak, and then they'll go to, somewhere in the South Pacific, and right, well, that's the thing. They get money for it because people watch it, and I was saying, it's real archaeology, because they are real archaeological sites, and you can, get some of the mysteries from them. I learned stuff watching it, because there'd be places I hadn't heard of, and then, and go and like research and like, oh wow, that is really interesting. I didn't know that there was, cities under the water, off the Indian coast. I knew about the cities under the water in the Mediterranean. I mean, there's many, many ancient cities that are underwater, in the Mediterranean. And the fact is, it means we don't know the vast majority of urban life that went on prior to the Greeks. Cause this stuff has materially been lost, and to dig it up, and people are slowly digging it up, but it takes much more time because you have to scuba dive to these places, and they're not mapped. I mean, there's so much we don't know, and it's right there. I mean, but anyway, there's cities off of the coast of India, like, thousands of years old, and they're massive cities, and they are there. And that's a real thing. And yes, the thing with Ancient Aliens is they'll go there, and they have, the guys, and it's all real, and it's interesting. And, and then it devolves to, well, it was aliens. And it's like, okay, that's fun. And they can do that. And okay. But nonetheless, like they're still going there. And so, like I said, it is real archaeology. And where do you see that on television? Like, where can you just watch a show, that's being currently produced where they have the money to send camera crews to these places and film there and talk about, and they would talk to actual archaeologists as well, who would talk about this stuff. They usually get a small amount of time. In the first, season, I think they had more of a counterpoint, counterpoint where they'd have real scientists who would just, say, this is idiocy, but then it quickly just got rid of those guys and it's just all ancient alien guys talking. And truthfully, they're more fun to listen to because there's they're so into it. Like they got to tell you this stuff. And whereas, scientists are just, they're just killjoys, they're just buzzkills. They're like, it's not scientists. It's not aliens. There's no evidence of it, which is, what it comes down to. There isn't real good evidence of it, if there was a spacecraft, it'd be undeniable. And how can you not? Yeah, you have to watch it. I mean, you as well. Yeah, and it's so much fun because they'll be at at the pyramids, and they'll be like, and this is mystery, and then well, could the answer lie 3,000 miles away? And they'll be like, that is. Like, yeah, sure. It could be. It could. That's crazy, but sure. And so, like, an episode will just be in, a dozen different places around the world. It's just so fun because there's no connections between any of them except that, well, could it be? Could the answer lie? Like, yeah, let's go. I think I've seen bits of it on YouTube. I've heard a lot of people talk about it because apparently it was from the 70s, right? Yeah. It had a lot of influence on a lot of people who today are, where it's big business, making these, these shows and writing these books about, all these weird, phenomena. Yeah. That was apparently one of the original, television shows about real life mysteries. Yeah. Yeah. Why did you watch it? You did? Really? Where was it on? Where did you see it? Oh, okay. Cool. Huh. Oh, okay. Really? I've seen parts of it on YouTube. Yeah. And it's, I might even watch most or part of an episode. The thing was, though, part of it seems so quaint because it's, there's been so much, research, and legitimate research done in so many of these areas since then that we've gained a lot more knowledge that negate a lot of the things I think they were focusing on at that time. But again, I like watching a show for production value, if it's done fun and cool and it's worth watching. You've got a great narrator and cool music, and yeah. So anyway, so they're having new episodes of Ancient Aliens on currently. They air them on Fridays. So right, it was Friday night, and so but I mean, History Channel will just run them all day. They'll run reruns, I mean, it's the whole day is Ancient Aliens, and then they'll debut the new one at 8:00 Central or something like that. But I found out just a week ago or whenever that my mom likes to watch Ancient Aliens, and I did not know this. Well, she doesn't appreciate it for the same reasons that I do. Yeah. And so, cause it was just, a week or two ago and it was on TV and I was like, oh, Ancient Aliens. And I was like, oh yeah, I like to watch this. And I was like, really? Oh, we have something connection. And then watching and talking to her and guys, oh crap. She believes it. It's just oh no. Yeah, she was telling me because it's so fun, they have the questions, well, could it be that they've been coming here for thousands of years? And then I'll be like, yeah, and they're still here. And it's what? What? Yeah, it was, okay.
Actually, the prior existence of galaxy-spanning civilizations is not far-fetched. In fact, given the extreme age of the galaxy and how quickly life evolved to its present state on our planet, we would expect that such civilizations have arisen in the galaxy many times. However, we do not have clear evidence on our planet that an alien civilization ever visited it in the past. And when we train our telescopes and receivers into the galaxy, we do not perceive the remnants of any previous civilizations. That we expect to perceive such remnants and do not is the Fermi paradox. Where is everybody? Are we alone in being a communicative civilization in the history of the galaxy? At present, it does appear so. Could it be that prior alien civilizations have existed, but for some reason, we've yet to perceive conclusive evidence of such? Yes, it could be. Though it is presently unknown to us, a resolution of the Fermi paradox exists for certain. And whatever it is, that resolution must be shocking.